Moin moin, hello ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here today with another tip review. And I have for you today the Divius Velvet smoothest ever ear tip. Yeah, that's correct. Today we are taking a look at another newcomer in the tip space. At least I've never heard about it. And yeah, this is their product, the Velvet ear tip, which apparently has a few special features going on. And yeah, today we find out what it can and what it can't. And yeah, to directly come with the general information here, yeah, they really claim this is the smoothest ever ear tip. That's literally their claim, and they say they have a velvet finish. And let me quote the marketing here: with a matte finished micro embossed design. So yeah, they basically mean they have a really small surface that they claim is small dots here, which apparently make this very, very smooth. And we talk about that in the additional factors chapter later on. But first, yeah, I think easiest to see probably also on the picture, this is a generally wide bore or wide outlet ear tip. And yeah, there's also not on the longer side of things. Let me get an IM in that has that on. But I think first let's see what you actually get in the packaging, because Divius is generous enough to give you a package where we have the tips mounted in, and you would get 3 pairs. And yeah, that clocks in at like $19 for 3 pairs. You can see the packaging here, and that means generally each pair would set you back about $6.3. In the grand scheme of things, that's in medium price segment. The ST35 clock in at $3 per pair. Complete foam, between 5 and 8. Zettner ear fit, the normal ones, $6.5. Normal spin fit, about $7.5. Finally, about 8 per pair. Liquid silicone ear tips, about 9 per pair. X Elastex, 9.5. And finally, crystal with $12.5 per pair. So yeah, in the medium side of things, but also not cheap at all. And then first, let's talk about comfort. And yeah, I have these on the AJ07M at the moment, because that was the last IM I used them on. And yeah, these only come in S, which is 10.6 millimeters diameter, which I have here. They come in MS, 11 and 11.4 millimeters, M, 12.4 millimeters, ML, 13.2 millimeters, and L, 14.2 millimeters. So that generally is decent, but I would really like to see an SS here. Like, this size is okay, like it's working for me, but I think an SS would still be nice here. Something like, let's say, make it 10 millimeters or 10.2, like make it at least a bit smaller for the smallest size you have. But as I said, personally, like S worked fine for me. Like, I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever. But yeah, just generally would be nicer to see SS for the majority of people. So yeah, comfort-wise, how does the smoothest ever texture work? I'd say pretty good. Like, these definitively are everything but sticky. Like, they're definitively on the smooth side of things. Like, if you touch them, you really noticed. For silicone, this is actually pretty smooth, like really they're right about that. And that means generally if you don't like sticky tips, yeah, this will be exactly right up your alley. On the opposite, if you like sticky tips, yeah, that might not be for you. Shape-wise though, let me just remove it from the IM so we can look at it in detail. This here is similar to what I would say, or at least what I've seen the deep mount radios are in terms of shape. That means it's a bit more like C shape, like ball shape, you could also say. But the widest point is more moved towards the front, like this here, right? Or like towards this point. While other tips usually have the widest point more at the back, like it would be a bit more funnel shape, or like other tips, I mean. So this might not be for you. I have read people that really don't like the C shape. But for me, this worked pretty well. Like, I could wear this with basically any IM I could fit this tip on, and it just worked fine. Also, what this shape does for me at least, I can get a deep insertion with these. I don't know why, but it just works. Possibly because these are also on the squishier side of things. You can see material thickness though is medium, I would say, but they're definitely more on the squishy side. So generally these fit me relatively deep, or relatively well, even with deeper insertions. And yeah, they stayed comfortably enough while doing so. They're not great in terms of comfort, I have to admit, but they are still good enough. And in my total benchmark, I would say most comfortable X Elastex, followed by cut foam, followed by SpinFit. On the same level as liquid silicon, on the same level as ST35, which in turn are slightly better than Velvet, which in turn are slightly better than Tangsan Kai, which in turn are slightly better than SNS, which in turn are slightly better than Crystal, and last but not least, finally, which really don't fit me well, and I can't get them to fit comfortably or even safely with most IEMs I've tried them. Next, let's talk about noise isolation. And yeah, with this shape, as I said, you can get them to insert deeper than other tips, at least I can do that. So that means generally this does isolate very well. However, again, if you don't get them to insert deeply enough, yeah, of course, the isolation will just be okay. And it really varies from IEM to IEM, I have to admit with this one. But with these that I have a medium or to medium long nozzle where you can get them to insert a bit deeper, these generally work well. And yeah, on shorter ones, yeah, because yeah, most isolations coming from the IEM, they are kind of okay only. So overall, I would still give them a 6.5 in terms of rating, and yeah, 6.5 being like kind of a bit above average, like 5 would be exactly the middle, and 10 would be really, really good foam tips. Because yeah, with deep insertion with these, as I said, they seem to isolate well enough, and I didn't have any problems with the isolator factors in day-to-day usage. Next, shaping sound. And as usual, we have two chapters here, subjective and objective. And first, I will start with subjective. Yeah, so subjectively, I have read quite a few people who say these attenuate treble or reduce it. And yeah, to a point, the quintet, subjectively speaking, absolutely is true. Like when I insert the quintet really deep with the Velvet tips, I have the feeling I have less upper treble there. It's not a whole lot, but it is enough so that I would say it makes it a bit smoother in the upper treble registers. Again, only for quintet here, because on other IEMs, honestly, I didn't notice much of a difference. Again, here we have the AJ07M, which also definitively has upper treble, and the graphs basically everywhere show it as well, even on non-IEC SEM or non-couplers. And yeah, I can say that is true. Like here we don't really attenuate much, like maybe a tiny bit, but I didn't notice much at all. Possibly because the upper treble frequencies here are not so peaky. Could be that it doesn't come off as mad. But yeah, that's what I mean. Subjectively, like I think this could be true for some in-ears, that they do reduce upper treble a bit. But generally, I can only speak from my experience. And yeah, with the quintet, where I have had longer time and most of the benchmark tracks through, yes, they do. On the AJ07M, not so much. And then on the bass side of things, because yep, let's take a look at this. This is wide outlet, and wide outlet, especially when they get a bit funnel shaped, can reduce bass quality. And I have to say, didn't really deteriorate bass quality in any meaningful way. At least compared to my reference ear tips here, which is like medium wide outlet as well. Only compared to smaller ear tips, I think you do lose a bit of tightness / punch of the bass, but really it's just a tad. And yeah, if you just look for a tip that is comfortable, I think, and not does do too much to the sound compared to like medium wide outlet tips generally, I think this should be fine. As I said, if you have IEMs where you have a peak in the upper treble that you want to reduce, this could also work for you, but really it depends. AJ07M, as I said, didn't do much to the upper treble registers. And yeah, that brings me to objective here. So this is all measured with my IEC SEM11 coupler, and I will show you measurements that have been done with the fake pinner and some without. Reason for that being the air volume. So when here's the ear drum to the left, right, there would be volume in front of it, and with the not with the pinner, there would be less volume compared to the microphone to the actual transducer. With the fake pinner, you have a bit more volume, and that can shift the frequency peaks a bit around. And as you see with the measurements I hopefully have been putting in the video for now, yeah, you do see that the upper treble registers are slightly attenuated compared to, for instance, the liquid silicon, but it's not a lot. We don't talk about like night and day difference here. We talk about a slight reduction. And in the mid-treble regions, around like 8K or so, there isn't much effects at all. Like with all of the amps I threw them on, there are some tips that have a bit more, but really just a few decibels. And yeah, there are also some that have a bit less, but generally you are fine here. Most important but is to notice here, due to the insertion depth that you can easily see with the pinner, or better to see with the pinner, the actual 8K peak really shifts a lot with different tips. And since I have more measurements here, yeah, just again confirms whatever I say when I review an IEM. Like if it has an 8K peak on the graph, don't be alarmed first, try it out. There are quite a few IEMs that actually don't have a real 8K, but some of them actually have, and that will be unpleasant. But really depends on what tip you use and how deep you insert them, yeah. And that brings me to additional factors. And yeah, so, smoothest ear tip ever. Is it actually the smoothest ear tip ever? I don't know, like I have no way of measuring smoothness, so I can't tell you, but compared to other smooth tips like the Final E or the E Pro or even the Tangsan Kai, I don't think they are less sticky, question mark, like they're in similar realm, they're definitely not sticky, but I don't think they are less sticky than the others, at least just judging by feeling. Compared to the Tangsan Kai, which were also pretty smooth, yeah, they only if you really touch them like with a bit more pressure, the texture helps them to stay a bit better, I think. But yeah, that's again just my best guess here. Like I have no way of measuring this. I would just say I can't confirm it's the best ever ear tip. And then another thing that they use to advertise, apparently, and I'm not sure if this is visible on camera at the back, they have a so-called pressure relief system. And this means they have, you can see here, hopefully there's a slight outlet on the inner ring here. And if you ask how is this supposed to work to relieve pressure, you're right, I thought the same, and I tried it on the AJ07M specifically because that has a slight driver flex problem. Yeah, it doesn't reduce the pressure at all. Like, it doesn't work, which also would have surprised me. And I also see no way how this is supposed to work. The Tangsan Kai, at least in theory, with their, let me just show them for you here, at least in theory with their texture here, I can see if you don't insert them deep enough and you have not a lot of pressure, yeah, I think this could maybe still work. But this one here, I see no way how this ever will reduce pressure here. So yeah, didn't work for me, and I also see no way how this is supposed to work. But because it's so smooth, of course, this means it's super easy to clean. Like literally just wipe it off with your finger and it's fine. To be fair, this is also the case with, for instance, the Tangsan Kai, but super easy to clean. And after using this for a couple weeks on quite a few IEMs, I also have to report, or can report, that I'd see no deterioration in material. So it should also be relatively long lasting. And yeah. Next thing, I think they also claimed they're easy to remove. At least I noted that in my review, my written one, where I base my usual reviews on. And as you can see, there's like a ring on the inside here as well. And I don't think these are easy to remove. Due to the additional ring on the inside here, actually the opposite is true. Like they are difficult to fit on, for instance, the AJ07M here, due to that. Like I really have to press them quite a bit to get them on. And it's not the hardest, like definitely other tips do worse, but they're also not easy to remove or to put on. So from that side, yeah, also the marketing claim, not exactly true. And then let me again say additional factors, right? This is a more C-shaped thing, or like more ball-shaped, so you can easily see that here. The widest point is about here at the front. That means this really could be not for everybody. Like it worked for me, but maybe it doesn't work for you. But this shape though means if you size it a bit up, it will probably have the widest point more outside of your ear canal. And if you size it a bit down, that means you probably can insert it a bit deeper, where the widest point is more inside your ear canal. So yeah, that's about the shape here. And I think that brings me to the conclusion. Yeah, I was actually surprised by the Velvet tips. I didn't expect much. I didn't really expect them to fit me because I usually don't like the very smooth tips. Like, usually prefer more sticky. But this actually worked well for me. And yeah, I think these tips, if you are fine with the C shape, actually could be recommended. Because they don't do much to the sound, like I said, possibly slight attenuation, but not a lot. And they generally are comfortable enough. And at least with the shape here, this is unique. Like I have not seen other tips that actually go for this shape. And if you're in Japan, you might have the choice to go for a deep mount radius. I unfortunately am not. So for a C-shaped tip, like it's the only one I have, and the only one I see is available everywhere. So I would say if you are in the market for a tip that is not exactly the same shape as every other tip like this here, yeah, I think this could be recommended in this case. And yeah, also don't see any of the marketing claims that are not true, or more likely not true, to be a big issue. As I said with the E Pro, I had a really big problem where they advertised graphene, because that was their core selling point. But here, the core selling point is smooth, and that is true, they are smooth. So I just say some of the marketing claims probably not true, but the biggest one, it's smooth, that is true. So I don't have such a big issue as the graphene with the E Pro tips. And that's it, yeah. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, if you have criticisms, if you have feedback, or if you have other tip recommendations, please leave a comment. And with this, Donspektor out.